I still remember the sound she made when she saw me lying on the floor. Not a gasp, not fear, just an annoyed sigh. Thanksgiving morning had barely begun when my foot slipped on a patch of spilled broth and my hip gave out beneath me. The pain shot straight through my side, sharp enough to steal my breath. I tried to turn, tried to press my palms against the tile, but my left leg refused to move. Marin, I managed, my voice cracking. Honey, I need help. My daughter stepped into the doorway with her phone in one hand and a serving spoon in the other. Her hair was pinned back neatly, her dress perfect for the holiday she insisted on hosting in my house. She looked right at me, straight into my eyes, and froze only long enough for her expression to shift from surprise to irritation. Mom. Seriously, she muttered. I tried to reach toward her. I fell. I can't get up. From the dining room came the sound of chairs scraping and voices laughing her friends, her husband, all of them preparing for the meal while I lay on the floor like an inconvenient obstacle. Marin exhaled sharply, pressed a button on her phone, and the screen flashed as she switched it to silent. I will be right back, she said, but she was already turning away. The footsteps faded, the doorway emptied, the laughter grew louder. I pulled myself forward inch by inch, my breath shaking. My hands were trembling so violently I nearly dropped my own phone when I finally reached it on the counter's edge. With effort, I unlocked it and called Marin. Silence. Another call? Nothing. A third? No answer. From where I lay, I could see the shadow of her husband, Theo, walking past the hallway. My call lit up his screen on the side table. He glanced at it, then at the kitchen, and shrugged before disappearing again. The cold from the floor seeped into my arms. My chest tightened. I swallowed hard and scrolled through my contacts until I reached the only person who might still pick up. June. I whispered as the phone rang. Please, just answer. And when her voice finally did, everything inside me loosened enough to breathe again. I had always believed motherhood guaranteed someone would come when you called. I was wrong. The pain in my hip pulsed with every shallow breath as I dragged myself toward the hallway table where the old landline sat. My palms burned against the wood floor, but I kept moving. I could hear Marin laughing with someone in the dining room, her voice bright and smooth, the way she sounded when she wanted people to believe everything was perfect. I reached the table leg, pulled myself up just enough to grab the receiver, and dialed her number again. 1 ring, 2, 3, then voicemail. I hung up and tried again. A message from her finally appeared on my cell phone, beside me on the floor, in the middle of something. What is it now? I typed slowly with shaking fingers. I fell. I am hurt. Please come. The message showed red, and then nothing else. My throat tightened. I dialed her older brother Rowan next. His phone rang out. I tried his wife, Cecilia, straight to voicemail. I did not expect them to answer immediately. They lived across town. But hearing the automated voice felt like another blow to the chest. I tried my younger sister. May, pick up, please, I whispered. No answer. The floor creaked overhead as someone walked to the bathroom. Theo's voice drifted through the hallway, low and dismissive. She is probably fine. He said to someone, she exaggerates everything. I lowered the receiver slowly, staring at the wall. My leg twitched with pain. A dizzy wave swept through me. My phone buzzed again. Another message from Marin. Can this wait? Not a question of concern, just annoyance. I dialed the next name I could think of, June Carver. My neighbor, a woman I chatted with while taking out the trash. Someone who once handed me a jar of jam she made herself because she had extras. Not family, not obligation, not the person who should have been next on my list. The phone rang once, then twice. Hello, Elowen. June's voice was sharp, alive. Nothing like the indifference surrounding me. What happened? I fell. I whispered. I cannot get up. I am coming. she said without hesitation. The line clicked off. And for the first time that morning, I felt the smallest thread of relief as her footsteps headed toward my door. June arrived in slippers and a half-buttoned coat. Like someone running toward a fire she did not start but refused to let burn alone. The door banged softly against the wall as she rushed in. Elowen. Her voice cracked the moment she saw me sprawled beside the hallway table. "Oh my goodness, how long have you been here? Since early," I whispered. I tried calling Marin." June knelt beside me, her breath unsteady, and she did not come. She did not bother hiding the disbelief. I shook my head. "She is hosting." June muttered something under her breath, then touched my shoulder carefully. "Do not move. I am calling for help." She dialed emergency services, her tone sharp and frightened in a way Marin's had never been for me. "I have a neighbor who has fallen," she said. "She cannot stand, and she is in severe pain. Please come quickly." When she hung up, she pressed her palm against my arm, warming the cold there. "I am staying with you," she said. "You are not alone." I swallowed the tightness in my throat. "Thank you. You would have done the same," she murmured. The paramedics arrived within minutes, lifting me gently onto a stretcher. Every movement sent a jolt through my hip, and I clenched the railing until my knuckles whitened. Marin still did not appear, not a single whisper of footsteps from the dining room. Inside the ambulance, June climbed in beside me without being asked. "They will not keep you long," she promised softly. "I will handle whatever you need." At the hospital, a doctor examined the x-rays and spoke quietly. "A fracture high on the left side. Not surgical, but it will require rest and support." June squeezed my hand. "We will get through this." Later, a nurse adjusted the blanket around me. "Is your daughter on her way?" she asked with a gentle smile. I felt the question like a blade. "She knows," I said, forcing the words out evenly. The nurse nodded sympathetically and stepped out. June remained at my bedside, her hand still wrapped around mine, the only anchor I had left as the room settled into an unfamiliar stillness. Silence can feel gentle until you realize it is not an accident. It is a choice. The morning after my fall, a nurse named Clara helped me sit upright. "Your daughter might come today," she said kindly. "Holidays make everyone scatter." I nodded, though no one had scattered. They had simply stepped around me. June returned with a small bag of toiletries and sat beside the bed. "Any word from Marin?" she asked quietly. "No," I said. "Nothing." She hesitated. "Do you want me to call her no? If she intends to come, she will come." June did not push further. Later that afternoon, a transport aide arrived. "Mrs. Baum, hail. You are being transferred to Briar Creek Rehabilitation Center." I looked toward the hallway, half expecting Marin to appear even then, but the corridor stayed empty. June gathered my things and followed the gurney with determined steps. At the rehab center, a therapist introduced herself briefly, then left me to settle in. June smoothed the blanket across my lap. "I can stay a little," she offered. "You should go home and rest," I said softly. She gave my hand a squeeze. "Call if you need anything." When she left, the room felt heavier. My phone buzzed. For a moment, I hoped it might be Marin. It was not. It was a notification from a friend. "Look at Marin's post. Happy Thanksgiving." With a sinking feeling, I opened the link. There was my daughter, smiling in my kitchen, the same kitchen where I had lain on the floor hours earlier holding a plate of roasted turkey. Guests clustered around her, laughing. No mention of me. No sign anything had happened. A comment beneath the photo read, "Your mom must be so proud of you hosting this year," Marin replied. "She is resting." Big day for me. Not a word about the fall. Not a word about an ambulance. Not a word about the hours I spent on the floor calling her name. I set the phone face down on the bed, the weight of the quiet pressed against my chest. Sharper than the pain in my hip, I closed my eyes, letting the room settle around me, and braced myself for the part that would come next when someone I loved would finally decide whether they cared enough to show up. Marin walked into the rehab center with a bright smile, the kind people wear when rehearsing a lie on the drive over. Theo trailed behind her, phone in hand, eyes already drifting around the room like he was appraising the furniture. "Mom," Marin said, her voice sugary sweet. "You look better. I have not seen you since Thanksgiving morning," I replied, my hands still resting on the blanket. "I called." She made a soft, dismissive sound. "I never got anything." "Maybe the reception was bad?" "I called repeatedly. I said—" Theo cut in. "These places have terrible service," he said, shrugging as if that explained everything. "Anyway, we wanted to check on you." I waited. Neither asked what happened, if I was in pain, or how long I had been on the floor. Marin clasped her hands together. "So," she began brightly, "we found a house in Short Pump. It is perfect. Bigger kitchen, better schools for when we have kids someday. But we need a little help with the down payment." Theo nodded. "Just something short-term. We figured you still had some of Dad's insurance left." My pulse tightened. "Is that why you came?" "Of course not," Marin said quickly. "We came because we care. But while we are here, why not talk about it? This house is too big for you alone anyway. And you would be safer in assisted living, you know." Theo stepped closer. "If you sold this place, you could put the money. I am not selling my home," I said. Marin's smile thinned. "You should at least consider it. For your safety." "My safety was not your concern 2 days ago." Her eyes flashed. "Mom, do not make this difficult. I am recovering," I said quietly, "and I will handle my affairs myself." Marin exhaled hard, irritated. "Fine, think about it." They walked out without another word, their footsteps fading down the hall as if they had already moved on to the next errand. That night, long after the hall lights dimmed, I asked the nurse for my purse. Clara wheeled it over on a small cart. "Do you need something, Mrs. Hale? Pain medicine? Water?" "No," I said. "Just the purse." She handed it to me gently, adjusting the pillows behind my back before slipping out of the room. I set the purse on my lap and unzipped it. The familiar rustle of papers met my hands. I had not looked through these documents in years, not since before my husband, Warren, passed back then. I kept them only because he asked me to. The first item I pulled out was my old will. My name, written in steady ink, felt like it belonged to another woman. The next page was the original trust one we drafted together when our children were still young, when believing in their loyalty felt easy. Then I found the power of attorney Marin pressured me to sign after Warren died. She had insisted it was just paperwork, something to make things smoother, something a daughter should help with. I remembered the tremor in my hand as I signed it, the guilt she used like a lever. I laid it aside. At the bottom of the folder was a folded sheet of paper I did not recognize. I opened it slowly. Warren's handwriting covered the page. Uneven, familiar. A note I had forgotten existed. "Protect yourself if they ever forget who you are." My throat tightened. I traced the letters with the tip of my finger. "You knew," I whispered to the empty room. "You knew this might happen." The ache in my hip no longer matched the ache in my chest. I gathered every document into a neat stack and pressed them flat with both palms. My decision did not shout. It did not waver. It arrived quietly, solid as bone. In the morning, I would call Malcolm Voss. I would rewrite everything, and this time, I would not let anyone else decide my future for me. I walked into Malcolm Voss's office with a cane and a decision I should have made years ago. The old law building near Shaco Slip still smelled faintly of paper and dust, the kind that settles into brick and never leaves. Malcolm rose when he saw me, adjusting his glasses. "Elowen," He said, "You are walking. That is good news." Slowly, I replied, "But I am here." He gestured to the chair across from his desk. "Sit. Tell me what brings you in." I placed my purse on the table and pulled out the folder I had reorganized the night before. "I need to update everything," I said. "The will, the trust, the beneficiary forms, all of it." He didn't reach for the documents right away. "This sounds like more than routine maintenance." "It is," I said. "I want an irrevocable trust. Everything protected. No one can change it. No one can contest it." Malcolm finally opened the folder. His expression tightened as he flipped through the old papers. "Your daughter is still listed as executor," he said quietly. "I know. And the trust splits the house. The savings. Everything evenly. I know that too." He looked up at me. "You want to change all of this?" "Yes. Who do you want as your new beneficiary, June Carver?" He blinked. "Your neighbor. She saved my life," I said. "She showed up. No one else did." He exhaled slowly, leaning back in his chair. "I cannot say I am surprised. You have been too forgiving for too long." The words struck something deep inside me. "Not anymore." Malcolm nodded and began drafting the new documents. As he wrote, he asked occasional questions, asset totals, account information, small clarifications. Each answer felt like a small release, a thread being cut one by one. When he finally slid the papers across the desk, the room felt heavier, as if even the walls understood the shift. "Elowen," he said gently, "once you sign this, it is permanent." "Good," I said. My signature was slow, my hand steady, no hesitation left. Malcolm gathered the documents into a new folder. "It is done." I stood with my cane, feeling the weight of the decision settle into me, not painful, not frightening, just final. The only person who had lifted me up was not my daughter, and now the future belonged to someone who had earned it. Marin arrived unannounced, confidence sharp as perfume. She let herself in with the spare key I had never reclaimed, her heels clicking across the floor as if the house already belonged to her. Theo followed, quieter than usual, his eyes scanning the living room like he was measuring what might soon be sold. "Mom," Marin called, stepping into the doorway. "We need to talk." I sat in my armchair, my cane resting against my knee. "I am listening." She took a breath, shaping her voice into something meant to sound gentle. "We found another house, better layout, better value, and we want to move quickly, but we need help. If you would give us part of what Dad left, it would make everything easier," Theo added. "It would not be permanent, just until we get settled." "I already told you," I said. "I am not giving you money." Marin blinked, her smile tightening. "You are being unreasonable. You live alone. You fell. You scared everyone. You need to be somewhere safe, an assisted living place. Maybe. Then we can sell this house and use the money productively." Theo nodded. "It is the practical thing to do." I folded my hands. "You did not seem concerned about my safety when I was on the floor." Marin's jaw twitched. "I never got your calls." "I sent messages," I said. She lifted her chin. "Well, I did not see them." I reached slowly for the purse on the table beside me. "Then open this." Her eyes narrowed. "What is this supposed to be?" "Something you should read," I said. "Go on." She snatched the purse, irritation boiling under her skin. She dug inside and pulled out the envelope with her name on it. When she opened it, the first paper slid onto her lap, photos of her phone screen with my messages marked as read. The next page showed the call logs from that morning. The third was the letter I had written, describing every minute I spent on the kitchen floor while she stepped around me like clutter. Then she reached the updated trust documents. Her face moved through disbelief, anger, and something close to panic. You changed everything." Theo leaned over her shoulder, swallowed hard. and whispered, "We miscalculated." Marin looked at me, voice trembling. "How could you do this?" I rose slowly, steady on my cane. "The same way you walked away," I said, "by choice." They left without touching the tea I had set out for them, a small courtesy I realized I no longer owed. Marin was the first to speak once the papers were back in the purse. "You blindsided me," she said, voice trembling but sharp. "You punished us without even talking to us first." I spoke. I replied. "You walked away. That is not fair," she snapped. "You are twisting everything." Theo touched her elbow. "Marin, maybe we should—" "No." She cut him off. "She needs to understand what she is doing." I leaned on my cane. "I understand perfectly." She stared at me, her eyes shining with fury. "You are choosing a stranger over your own daughter." "I am choosing the person who answered the phone," I said. Silence hit the room like a closing book. Marin inhaled sharply, grabbed her purse, and marched toward the door. "Do not expect me to come running the next time something happens to you. I will not," I said. Theo hesitated, almost apologetic, but followed her out. The door slammed harder than necessary, the sound echoing down the hallway. I let the stillness settle. Then I moved to the linen closet, opened the highest shelf, and pulled down the last box of Marin's childhood things, old recital programs. A sweater she had loved when she was small, a birthday card she wrote at age 10. I packed them neatly, closing the lid without ceremony. A soft knock sounded a while later. When I opened the door, June stood there holding 2 grocery bags. "I did not know if you needed anything," she said, "but I brought some basics." "You did not have to," I told her. She set the bags on the counter and looked at me with an honesty that stripped the air between us. "Elowen, you have had more kindness from me in 2 weeks than from her in 2 years." Her words did not stab, they settled. They confirmed what I already understood but had not admitted aloud. I took a slow breath. Steady and deep. The air inside the house felt different now, clearer. Peace had finally stepped through the doorway where Marin's anger had just walked out. She stormed out of my house screaming about betrayal. But the papers in that purse were already signed. For 2 days afterward, the phone stayed silent. No calls, no messages, not even a half-hearted apology. Marin had cut herself off as cleanly as if she had sliced a rope. I waited to feel the familiar ache of losing her, but it never came. What settled in its place was something steadier relief, calm. A quiet I had not known in years. June showed up the morning before Thanksgiving with a bag of groceries cradled in her arms. "I brought things for a small dinner," she said. "Nothing fancy. You did not need to do that." I told her. "I know," she replied. "That is why I wanted to." We unpacked the items together, my movement slower but sure. She handed me a small tin of cinnamon. "You told me once you used to make spiced apples with Warren," she said. I thought, maybe we could do that. I felt my throat tighten. "Thank you." June. We worked side by side, talking softly. No pretending, no tension winding through the air. Just the gentle sound of 2 people choosing to be there as the food finished simmering. June glanced toward the dining room. "Do you want to set 2 places or 3? She asked quietly. 2, I said. "It is time." She nodded. No pity, no questions, just understanding. We sat down at the table, a table that had once held 5 seats, then 4, then 3, and now only 2. I lifted my fork, and for the first time since my fall, my hands did not shake. "This feels right," I said. "It does." June agreed. "It feels like yours." We ate slowly, talking about small things, laughing at moments that deserved laughter. Nothing felt heavy. Nothing felt forced. I realized I had survived more than a fall. I had survived the part of motherhood that breaks you, when the child you love forgets how to love you back. As the meal ended, I looked across the table at the woman who showed up when no one else did. And I understood exactly what I wanted to say. In the end, who deserves your love, the one who walked away, or the one who ran toward you? If you want to hear how I reclaimed my life after that Thanksgiving,